Hey, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to show you a double strategy positioning mistake and how to fix it. Please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Even share this video with a friend, as those are the best ways to support this channel. All right, and when I say share this video with a friend, I mean get ready to click share, copy the link, and send this to your doubles partners. I mean this. This is going to be one of those videos you have to send to your tennis friends, because if you get on the same page, I promise you, you will win more matches. First, let me test your knowledge, and then I'm going to show you a point between Stanford University and Utah. And I'm going to show you a mistake that those high-level players make that I see every day, probably 30 times a day at the club where I coach. So here's the scenario. I'm going to test your knowledge, and then we're going to check out the footage. So let's say this is you, and you lob your opponent, right? So this player is going to go get that ball. This player is going to switch, and hopefully they move back. Where should this team position themselves? Where do they go? Do they go up? Do they go back? Like, where do you stand? And where do you want to position yourself when you lob your opponents? Well, let's check out the footage, and I'll show you the mistake that is made by these high-level players, and then we'll come back to the strategy board.
So first, let's watch the point in its entirety, and then we'll analyze it. Now that was a really exciting point. And one thing I want to say, anytime I'm analyzing players like this, I'm not sitting here saying I can beat these players. I cannot beat these players who we're currently watching. So I am definitely not speaking on high and saying, you know, if only they knew what I know or they were my level. No, I can't beat these players. But all levels of play, beginners, intermediate, advanced, college, and I've even seen pros make this mistake that these players at the bottom of the screen made. So the point is actually a very fun point. There's a lot of action, there's drop volleys, there's little dinks, and right here, this is a great time to do it. Right here, this player hits a lob, and he hits a great lob up over the opponent's heads. So you can see this player running back, he's in major trouble, and you can see his partner moving back too. Look at his partner moving back, and that's a smart thing, because when your partner's in trouble, you want to move back because you're expecting something bad to happen. Now, let's go back here a second. When you see the back of your opponent, right? This is called butts and elbows. If your doubles team is running away from you and you see it's called butts and elbows. So you see their elbows and you see their butts as they're running away from you, then you want to expect a lob. When you lob your opponent, you want to expect a lob. When you expect a lob, where should you go? Most players think that you're supposed to go up to the middle of the service box or even tighter. I see this happen all the time. A great lob is hit over the opponent, and then these players move up really tight. That is what Vic Braden called rushing the net to lose at a faster rate. You're actually making it easier for your opponent to beat you. See, when your opponent is running back, you're expecting them to lob. Well, watch. There's the lob. Here's the split step by the players. Look how close this player is to the net. And this player's better because he's not as close to the net. But when you're that close to the net and you're expecting a lob, the only type of lob you can handle is a bad lob. You will struggle with a mediocre lob, and a really great lob that goes back to the baseline, you've got no chance of getting. And this is actually why this player misses this overhead. He gets way too close to the net. Where you actually want to be when you expect your opponent to lob, after you lob them, is on the service line. Or, I would tell you, even a little bit behind the service line. Because no matter what lob they hit in that situation, you'll be fine. You can go forward from the service line, you can go back, right? This player can go forward, they can go back. But if you're really tight to the net, the only type of shot you can handle is a bad shot from the opponent. And so remember, he should be on the service line at this point. Both of them should be positioning on the service line. The lob goes up, and I want you to watch where he makes contact with this overhead. I mean, he's in this is really unnecessary stress. He is right over the service line. Look where he takes off. He takes off from in front of the service line, and he's making contact right above the service line. He could have just been standing there that whole time. And this is not hindsight is 2020 or Monday morning quarterback. Like this is not just because we know now that he should have been back that we're saying this. This is just logical. When you lob your opponents, you want to be on the service line. Again, I'm not saying when you lob your opponents, you should move forward. That's usually what people say when I ask them a question. They say, where do you want to go when you lob your opponents? And they give a direction to go. You don't want to give a direction. You want to go to a place. Because let's say you're in the middle of the box and your partner lobs. You would actually want to move back. So it's not a direction you want to go. When you lob successfully over your opponents and you lob them and it's a great lob, move to the service line. He ends up missing this overhead. It goes long. You can see this player puts his puts his finger up saying, nope, that ball was out. And then look at the player with the red hat. He's dejected, right? He high fives and he goes, oh, and his like head goes to the side and he's like so mad. He's like, I can't believe I missed that. If they would have just positioned themselves on the service line from the beginning, I'm not saying he's guaranteed to make the overhead, but it sure would have been a lot easier. The rule is this: when you lob your opponent successfully, go to the service line and you'll be able to handle any shot they hit.
So a big shout out to Matt Lynn for allowing me to use that footage. Give him a sub. I put his link in the description below. So here's the scenario. It was a crazy point, but points get crazy, right? So I see points like that at the recreational level every day. And then the no man's land player that we saw just now hit a lob right down the middle, and it was great. Driving this player back toward the back fence, this player moved back. The mistake that was made by these players is they moved in front of the service line. This player was pretty good, but this player way too close. When you lob your opponent, this is written in stone, when you lob your opponents successfully, move to the service line. So these players should have just gone like this, and they should have just positioned themselves on the service line. So let's talk about the scenarios, right? This player is back. You have to expect a lob in this situation. When you lob your opponent, they're going to lob you back 90% of the time. So let's be right 90% of the time by predicting that they're going to lob. And then what we want to do is we want to be able to get bad lobs, mediocre lobs, and great lobs. If you move tight to the net, you're only ready for a bad lob. And an average lob that goes to the service line, where you could have just been, and we just saw, that becomes much harder than it needs to be. And a great lob, you have no chance of getting, and your partner has no chance of getting. If you position yourself on the service line, you can get a bad lob because it's going to go up, and you can just run forward 3 steps and slam it away. A mediocre lob comes right to you, and a really great lob, you can take 2 steps back and hit in no man's land. If you go to the service line when you successfully lob your opponent and they lob it back, it's nearly impossible for you to have a ball go over your head and not be able to get it. If you struggle moving backward, if you're someone who doesn't like moving backward, if you've fallen before going backward, then I actually teach my students to be 1 step behind the service line. So if you feel you're athletic enough to easily move back and hit an overhead while moving backward, then being on the service line is great. But if you struggle moving backward and hitting, then being slightly back, about 1 step behind the service line is great, because then it just makes it that much easier and a shorter distance even to move backward. Now some people say, yeah, but what if they hit a ground stroke? Well, again, we don't know what they're going to do. And most people don't hit ground strokes, and they're not going to have much pace on it anyway. But let's say they do. You're on the service line, and let's say they just hit a ground stroke. Well, you move forward and you quickly volley into the open court. This scenario isn't just for when you are lobbing over the net person. Just yesterday, I was watching high-level doubles for a club, and the scenario was 1 up, 1 back. And so it was like this. This player hit a cross-court ball very high in the air. There was no switching involved. There was no butts and elbows. There was no like, you see the person like this. There was none of that. There was a high lob that pushed this person back because they didn't take it off the rise. They didn't feel comfortable taking it off the rise. So the ball landed in no man's land. It went back up really high, and this player was in trouble. The baseliner who hit that great cross-court lob stayed behind the baseline. And this person moved tight to the net. That is the recipe for not capitalizing on this situation. Because the ball went like this, and it landed right here. It landed just past the service line. When that lob occurred, this player should have been on the service line. This player should have been sneaking up and gone to the service line. See, the definition of a lob is not a ball that goes over someone's head. A lob is just a high ball. So don't think that the lob has to be a ball that goes over someone's head. In a one-up, one-back versus one-up, one-back scenario, when you lob cross-court, rather than hitting it hard cross-court and low, if you lob cross-court, that's a time to sneak up. You should just try that the next time you play doubles. Hit just your returning serve and you're rallying cross-court with the server, right? You're returning serve and you're rallying cross-court with the server. Lob it cross-court. Push this person back. Make sure you tell your partner, which means make sure you send them this video. This player can't get tight to the net. You're just making it very easy for them to hit over you. This player stays on the service line or even moves back. This player then you move to the service line. I'm telling you, that next ball is going to be an overhead, and you need to hit it at the person who, not hard, like trying to hurt them, but you're trying to hit it to the person with very little time to react, and then you're going to win that point. The rule is simple. When you hit a successful lob, move to the service line. I'm begging you, make this change. You will start beating doubles teams you never thought you could. And that's when you gain the most confidence you've ever had. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. Come on, hit the share button right now, grab the link and send this to your doubles teams. You've got to start winning these points. I'm so excited. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You got this.